I'm not asking you to love me. I'm asking you to save them." His voice cracked on the last word, and something inside her chest broke open like a dam she'd been holding back for years. Before we begin, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments. It means everything to know you're here. Now, let me tell you a story about two broken people who found each other when they had nothing left to lose. The truck stop bathroom mirror showed Vera exactly what she'd become. 32 years old, bruised cheekbone turning purple, split lip she'd tried to hide with the last of her concealer, duffel bag at her feet containing everything she owned in the world, 3 changes of clothes, a toothbrush, and $47 in crumpled bills. She splashed cold water on her face and tried not to think about where she'd sleep tonight. The Oklahoma wind hit her like a slap when she pushed through the door. November cold, the kind that gets inside your bones. She pulled her thin jacket tighter and headed toward the road, thumb out, praying someone decent would stop. 3 cars passed, then a black pickup truck slowed, pulling onto the shoulder. The man who stepped out wasn't what she expected. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a worn cowboy hat and boots that had seen real work. But it was his face that stopped her. Weathered and handsome, yes, but carrying something heavier. Exhaustion, grief, the kind of tired that sleep can't fix. "You need a ride?" His voice was deep, careful. Vera's instincts screamed at her to run. She'd learned the hard way what men wanted from women who looked desperate, but something in his eyes, a sadness that matched her own, made her nod. "Where are you headed?" he asked as she climbed in. "Anywhere but here." He didn't push, just put the truck in gear and drove. They rode in silence for 20 miles. The landscape rolled past, endless fields, scattered cattle, the kind of emptiness that either breaks you or sets you free. Vera kept her hand near the door handle, ready to jump if she needed to. Then he spoke again. "My name's Garrett, Garrett Bishop. I run a cattle ranch about 40 miles north of here." He paused, hands tight on the wheel. "I'm going to say something that's going to sound crazy, but I need you to hear me out." Vera's stomach clenched. Here it comes, she thought, the catch. "I have 2 sons," Garrett continued, his voice low and strained, 7 and 5 years old. "Their mother died 18 months ago, cancer, took her in 6 weeks. He swallowed hard. "I've been trying to do this alone, work the ranch, raise my boys, but I'm drowning. They need someone, a woman's touch, a mother." Vera stared at him. "What are you saying?" Garrett pulled the truck over to the side of the empty highway. He turned to face her, and she saw something desperate in his eyes, something that scared her and called to her at the same time. "I'm saying I need help, and you look like someone who needs somewhere to be." He took a shaky breath. "I'm proposing a deal. You come to my ranch, you take care of my boys. In return, you get a roof over your head, food, safety, and $1,000 a month. No strings, no expectations. Just help me raise my sons." "You don't even know me." "I know you're running from something. I know you're scared, and I know you've got nobody, or you wouldn't be hitchhiking on a November afternoon with a split lip and everything you own in that bag." Vera's hand went to her face automatically. She'd thought the makeup covered it. "I also know," Garrett said quietly, "that you didn't flinch when I pulled over. That means you're either brave or you've got nothing left to lose. Maybe both." The silence stretched between them like a wire pulled tight. "Why would you trust a stranger with your children?" Garrett's laugh was bitter. "Because I've tried everything else. I've hired 4 nannies in the last year. They all quit. It's too isolated, they said. Too much work. The boys are too difficult." His voice broke. "I'm watching my sons slip away from me. They don't laugh anymore. They don't play. My youngest, Caleb, he stopped talking 3 months ago. Just stopped, and I don't know how to fix it." Something in Vera's chest twisted. She knew what it felt like to be voiceless, to have the words trapped inside you where no one could hear them scream. "What happened to your face?" Garrett asked softly. Vera turned away, looking out at the empty fields. "I left someone who thought he owned me." "Did he follow you?"
He will, eventually. She touched the bruise again. He always does. Garrett was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was steel. Not to my ranch, I promise you that. Vera wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe someone could keep her safe. But she'd learned that promises were just pretty lies men told before they broke you. Still, she had $47 and winter coming. She had no plan, no family, nowhere to go. And something about this man's desperate honesty felt more real than anything she'd heard in years. "How do you know you're not just a different kind of danger?" she asked. "You don't," Garrett met her eyes, "but I'm giving you a choice. That's more than most men would do." The wind howled outside the truck. Vera thought about sleeping in a ditch tonight, about the cold, about Marcus finding her eventually because he always did, and what he'd do when he caught her this time. She thought about two little boys who'd lost their mother and their voices. 1-month trial. If it doesn't work, you pay me for the time and drive me to the nearest city. No questions. Garrett's shoulders sagged with relief. Deal. They shook hands. His palm was calloused, warm, and steady. Neither of them knew they'd just made the most important decision of their lives. The Bishop Ranch appeared as the sun started to set, a sprawling property with a 2-story farmhouse, several barns and paddocks stretching to the horizon. It was beautiful in a rough, weathered way, real, solid. Vera's hands started shaking as they pulled up the drive. "You okay?" Garrett asked. "I don't know anything about ranching or being a mother." "Neither did I. We'll figure it out together." The front door burst open before they reached it. 2 small figures stood on the porch, backlit by the warm glow from inside. An older woman with silver hair appeared behind them, her hand on the younger boy's shoulder. "That's Lorraine, my neighbor. She's been helping when she can, but she's got her own place to run." Garrett climbed out, and Vera followed slowly, suddenly aware of how she must look, beaten, broken, not exactly mother material. The older boy stepped forward first. He had his father's eyes, dark and serious, carrying too much for someone so young. "Who's that, Dad?" "This is Vera. She's going to be staying with us for a while, helping out around the house." The boy's face closed up immediately. "Another one? She'll just leave like the others." "Beck," Garrett's voice held a warning. "Be polite." "Why? It's true." The younger boy, Caleb, just stared at Vera with huge eyes. He didn't speak, didn't move, just watched her like she was a ghost he wasn't sure was real. Lorraine stepped forward, studying Vera with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "You running from something, honey?" Vera's spine stiffened. "Is it that obvious?" "To someone who's been there, yes." The older woman's gaze softened slightly. "But Garrett is a good man. His boys are good boys. You hurt them and you'll answer to me. Understood?" "I'm not here to hurt anyone." "Good." Lorraine handed Garrett a casserole dish. "That's for dinner. Boys ate at my place already." She looked at Vera one more time. "He needs help. Real help. Not someone who'll run at the first sign of difficulty." "I know about difficulty," Vera said quietly. Something passed between the two women. Maybe recognition, maybe understanding. After Lorraine left, Garrett showed Vera to her room. It was simple but clean. A double bed, a dresser, a window overlooking the paddocks. It was the nicest room she'd slept in 2 years. "Bathrooms across the hall," Garrett said. "Tomorrow I'll show you around properly, explain the routine. For now, just rest. You look exhausted." "Thank you." The words felt inadequate. "For taking a chance on me." Garrett paused in the doorway. "My wife, Claire, she used to say that sometimes broken pieces fit together better than new ones, that they understand each other's sharp edges." He looked away. I hope she was right. That night, Vera lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the house settling. Footsteps above her, Garrett putting his sons to bed, low voices, the creak of floorboards. She touched her bruised face and let herself cry for the first time in months. Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe she'd be running in a week. But for tonight, she was warm and safe and sleeping in a real bed. It was enough. Vera awoke to the smell of coffee and bacon. She dressed quickly, pulling on jeans and a sweater, and followed the sounds downstairs. Garrett stood at the stove, flipping pancakes, while Beck set the table with the mechanical efficiency of someone who'd done it too many times. Caleb sat at the table, staring at nothing. "Morning," Garrett said, looking up. There were dark circles under his eyes. "Hope you're hungry. Can I help?" "You can start by eating. We've got a full day ahead." Breakfast was quiet. Beck ate without looking at her. Caleb didn't eat at all, just pushed his pancakes around his plate. Garrett watched his youngest son with barely concealed worry. "Caleb," he said gently, "you need to eat, buddy." No response. "He does this," Beck said, his voice flat. "He doesn't talk, he doesn't eat much, he just sits there." "Beck!" "It's true, Dad."
He's been like this since Mom died. The doctors say there's nothing wrong with him. He just won't talk." Vera watched the little boy. She saw herself in his shut-down face, the way he'd retreated so far inside himself that the world couldn't touch him anymore. Slowly, carefully, she moved her chair closer to Caleb's. She didn't speak, didn't force him to look at her. She just sat there, close enough that he'd know he wasn't alone. And then she started cutting her own pancakes into small pieces, eating slowly, calmly, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Caleb's eyes flickered toward her. Vera kept eating, humming softly under her breath. Not a real song, just a gentle sound that filled the silence without demanding anything. After a long moment, Caleb picked up his fork. He took one small bite, then another. Garrett's hand stilled on his coffee cup, his eyes locked on his son. Beck stopped eating entirely, staring. By the time breakfast ended, Caleb had eaten half his pancakes. It wasn't much, but it was something. After Garrett took the boys out to do morning chores, Vera stood at the kitchen sink, washing dishes and trying to process what she'd just done. She had no training, no experience. She just acted on instinct. That was remarkable. She spun around. Garrett stood in the doorway, hat in his hands. "You got him to eat. Nobody's managed that in weeks. I didn't do anything special. I just sat with him." That's exactly what he needed. Garrett took a step closer. "How did you know?" Vera looked out the window at the paddocks, choosing her words carefully. "Because I know what it's like to not have words. When you've been hurt badly enough, sometimes silence is the only safe place you have." The air between them grew heavy with unspoken understanding. "Who hurt you, Vera?" She didn't answer, couldn't. The wounds were too fresh, too raw. "Okay," Garrett said softly. "You don't have to tell me. But if he comes here, he won't." She said it with more confidence than she felt. "But if he does, I want you to know that you're under my protection now. This is your home. You're safe here." Home. The word cracked something inside her chest. Before she could respond, Beck burst through the back door. "Dad! Dad! The fence is down in the north pasture. 6 head got out." Garrett swore under his breath. "How bad?" "Real bad. They're heading toward the highway." "I need to go," Garrett said, already moving. "Can you watch the boys? Caleb's in his room. Beck can help me." "Go," Vera said. "We'll be fine." As father and son rushed out, Vera stood alone in the quiet kitchen. She was a caretaker now, responsible for 2 children who didn't know her, didn't trust her. She climbed the stairs slowly, heart pounding. Caleb's room was at the end of the hall. The door was open. Inside, she could see him sitting on his bed, holding a worn stuffed horse, staring at the wall. Vera sat down in the hallway outside his door, close enough that he could see her, far enough that she wasn't invading his space. She didn't speak. She just pulled out the only book she owned, a battered copy of The Velveteen Rabbit that she'd carried for years, and began to read aloud. Her voice was soft, gentle, asking nothing from him. After 10 minutes, Caleb appeared in the doorway. After 20, he sat down beside her. By the time she finished the story, his small hand had crept into hers. Neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. 3 weeks passed. Vera fell into the rhythm of the ranch like she'd been there all her life. Up at dawn, making breakfast for 3 hungry males, packing lunches, doing laundry and cleaning, and learning to cook the hearty meals ranch work demanded. But more than that, she learned the boys. Beck was angry at Death for taking his mother, angry at his father for not being able to fix it, angry at every woman who'd tried to replace what they'd lost. Vera tested him constantly, leaving messes, talking back, watching to see when she'd break. She didn't break. She met his anger with steady calm. When he threw his plate in the sink and stormed off, she washed it without comment. When he told her she wasn't his mother and never would be, she agreed with him, because it was true, and he needed someone to be honest. "You're right. I'm not your mother. I could never replace her. But I'm here, and I'm not leaving." "Everyone leaves," Beck shot back. "Then I guess you'll just have to wait and see if I'm everyone." Slowly, almost invisibly, his walls started to crack. Caleb was different. The silent boy was a puzzle she couldn't solve, only sit with. She read to him every day. She hummed while cooking. She never forced him to speak, never pressured him. Just let him exist in her presence without demands. He started following her around the house, not close, always a few feet back, like a cautious deer. But there, and bit by bit, he started eating again. Garrett watched it all with something like wonder in his eyes. They worked around each other carefully, 2 broken people trying not to cut each other on their sharp edges. He was up before dawn, working until dusk, pushing himself past exhaustion. She saw how he ran from his grief, burying it in fence repairs and cattle drives and endless labor. They didn't talk about personal things, didn't cross the careful boundaries they'd established. Until the night of the storm. It came out of nowhere, a November blizzard that turned the sky black and the wind savage. Garrett came rushing in from the barn, ice crusted on his jacket. "North fence is down again," he said, already heading back toward the door. "I've got cattle scattered across 2 counties. "You can't go out in this," Vera said, grabbing his arm. "You'll freeze to death. Those cattle represent our entire year's income. If I lose them, then we'll find them tomorrow. You're no good to anyone dead." "You don't understand." His voice was ragged. "I can't fail at this too. I can't lose the ranch on top of everything else." The grief in his voice stopped her cold. "On top of losing her," Vera said softly. Garrett's face crumpled. For a moment she thought he might actually cry, but he just stood there, dripping melting ice on the floor, looking lost. "I don't know how to do this. Any of it. I don't know how to be a single father. I don't know how to keep this place running without her. I don't know how to help my son find his voice again. And I'm so damn tired of pretending I have any idea what I'm doing." Vera took his frozen hands in hers. "Then stop pretending," she said. "Stop trying to be perfect. Your boys don't need perfect. They just need present. I'm failing them. You're surviving. There's a difference." Outside, the wind howled like something alive and angry. Inside, these 2 damaged people stood in the warm kitchen, holding hands like drowning swimmers reaching for shore. "Why did you run?" Garrett asked suddenly. "Who did this to you?" Vera's hands tightened on his. She'd never told anyone the full truth, but standing here with this man who'd given her shelter when she had nothing, she found herself speaking. "His name was Marcus. I met him when I was 25. He was charming, successful, everything I thought I wanted." Her voice went flat, distant. "He was a liar. The first time he hit me, he cried after, said he'd never do it again, promised he'd change." "They always do," Garrett said quietly. "By the time I realized what he really was, I was trapped. No job, he made me quit. No friends, he'd isolated me from everyone. No money, everything was in his name. I tried to leave twice. Both times he found me. Both times." She touched her cheekbone unconsciously. "This was the 3rd time. But this time, I took the emergency money I'd been hiding for 2 years, and I didn't stop running until I saw your truck. Does he know where you are? Not yet, but Marcus doesn't let go of things he thinks belong to him. Garrett's jaw clenched. If he comes here, I'll leave. I won't bring that danger to your home, to your boys. Stop. Garrett's hands cupped her face, careful of the fading bruise. You're not leaving, and if he shows up, he'll learn what happens to men who hurt women on my land. There was something fierce in his eyes, protective, real. Her breath caught. They were standing so close. She could feel the heat of him, could see the frost still melting in his dark hair. For one dangerous moment, she thought he might kiss her. Instead, he stepped back. I should check on the boys, make sure they're not scared of the storm. Garrett! Good night. He was gone before she could respond. Vera stood alone in the kitchen, her hands still warm from his touch, her heart pounding against her ribs. This was becoming something it wasn't supposed to be, something that terrified her more than Marcus ever had. Because Marcus had taught her to survive pain, but no one had taught her to survive hope. The morning after the storm, they found 3 calves dead in the snow. Vera heard Garrett's anguished shout from the house. She ran out, boots unlaced, to find him kneeling in the white powder beside 3 small bodies. Dad? Beck stood nearby, his young face stricken. Garrett didn't move, just knelt there in the snow, shoulders shaking. He wasn't crying. It was worse than that. It was the silent breakdown of someone who'd reached their absolute limit. Beck, go inside, Vera said quietly.
But Dad, inside, now, take your brother upstairs. Once they were gone, Vera approached slowly. She knelt beside Garrett in the snow. I can't do this anymore, he said, his voice wrecked. I can't keep losing things. You haven't lost them. The boys are still here. The ranch is still here. You're still here. 3 calves is $2,000 I don't have. The fence repairs are another $1,000, and I'm so far behind on the mortgage that one more bad month and the bank will... He stopped, pressed his hands against his eyes. Claire would be so disappointed in me. Claire would want you to stop punishing yourself. You didn't know her. No, Vera said. But I know what it's like to survive when you don't want to keep breathing even when every cell in your body wants to stop. You're doing that every single day for those boys. That's not failure, that's love. Garrett looked at her then, really looked at her. Snow had started falling again, dusting their shoulders, catching in her hair. How are you so strong? I'm not. I'm just practiced at breaking. Something shifted between them. Some invisible line they'd been dancing around for weeks. Vera. The sound of breaking glass shattered the moment. They both ran for the house. Inside, they found Beck standing in the kitchen, surrounded by shattered plate pieces, his face flushed with anger. I didn't mean to. It slipped. It's okay, Vera started. It's not okay. Nothing's okay. Mom's dead, Dad's losing the ranch, and we're all just pretending like everything's fine when it's not. Nothing will ever be fine again. The boy was sobbing now, really sobbing, all his carefully controlled anger pouring out in a flood. Garrett moved toward him, but Beck backed away. Don't, just don't. Vera stepped forward instead, slowly, carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. You're right, she said. Beck stared at her, hiccuping. What? You're right. Nothing is fine. Your mom died. That's not fair. It's not okay, and pretending it is doesn't help anybody. Finally, someone who's not lying. But here's the thing, Beck. Vera crouched down, glass crunching under her feet. Not being fine doesn't mean you give up. It means you keep going anyway. You feel everything, the anger, the sadness, all of it, but you don't let it win. What if I want it to win? What if I'm tired of fighting? Then you fight anyway, because that's what your mom would want. Not for you to be fine, just for you to keep going. Beck's face crumpled. I miss her so much. I know, sweetheart, I know. The boy collapsed into her arms, finally, letting himself be held, letting himself be a child again instead of an angry soldier fighting a war he couldn't win. Garrett watched from the doorway, his eyes red. And upstairs, unnoticed by any of them, Caleb stood on the landing, watching, listening, learning. It happened 3 days before Christmas. Vera was in the kitchen making cookies, sugar cookies shaped like stars and trees. Beck was helping, Flower dusting his nose, chattering about what he wanted Santa to bring. The walls were covered in paper snowflakes they'd cut together. It almost felt like a home. Caleb sat at the table as always, watching silently. But Vera noticed he'd moved his chair closer, close enough to see the cookie cutters, to smell the cinnamon and vanilla. "Want to help, Caleb?" she asked, not expecting an answer. She never did anymore. But this time, something was different. The little boy looked at the dough, then at the cookie cutters, then at her. His mouth opened. Horse. The word was so quiet, Vera almost missed it, but Beck dropped his cookie cutter with a clatter. "Dad! Dad!" Beck screamed toward the back door. "Caleb talked!" Garrett burst through the door, still wearing his work coat. "What?" "Horse," Caleb said again, louder this time, pointing at a horse-shaped cookie cutter. "Want horse." The kitchen went absolutely still. Then Garrett was across the room, dropping to his knees in front of his youngest son, tears streaming down his face. "Caleb, buddy, say it again." "Horse." Caleb's voice was rusty from disuse, but it was there, real, present. "Want to make horse cookies." Beck started crying. Vera started crying. Garrett pulled both his sons into his arms and held them like he'd never let go. "You talked," he kept saying. "You talked, buddy. I knew you would. I knew it." Over Garrett's shoulder, Caleb looked at Vera. "Thank you," he whispered, and Vera knew this little boy had been waiting for someone who understood that silence wasn't the same as having nothing to say, waiting for someone patient enough to sit with him until he was ready. That night, after the boys were in bed, Garrett found her on the porch. She was wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars, trying to process the miracle they'd witnessed. "You brought him back," Garrett said. "You brought both of them back." They were never gone, just lost for a while. Garrett sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. "I don't know how to thank you." "You don't have to thank me. This is my job. It stopped being just a job weeks ago. You know that." The air between them charged with electricity, all the careful distance they'd maintained, all the boundaries they'd drawn, they were crumbling. "Vera." "Garrett, I'm falling in love with you." The words hung in the frozen air like stars. Vera's heart stopped, started, raced. "I can't," she said. "This was supposed to be temporary, a business arrangement." "I know. But somewhere between your first breakfast and watching you heal my sons, it became real." He turned to face her. "You became real. Not just the nanny, not just the woman I hired. You became the person I look for first thing in the morning, the one I want to tell about my day, the reason I come inside even when there's more work to do." "I'm broken," Vera whispered. "I've got so much damage." "So do I. Maybe that's why we fit." He reached for her hand. She let him take it. "I'm not asking you to love me back. Not yet. Not until you're ready. I'm just asking you to stay. Really stay. Not as an employee. As part of this family." Vera looked at their joined hands, at this good man who saved her without knowing it, at the life she'd somehow stumbled into, chaotic and imperfect and more real than anything she'd ever known. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Of me? Of this. Of wanting it too much. Every good thing in my life has been taken away. What if it isn't?" Garrett interrupted. "What if this time you get to keep it?" The question hung between them like a promise. Vera leaned her head on his shoulder. He wrapped his arm around her, and they sat there under the stars, two broken people beginning to believe they might be allowed to heal. Inside the house, Beck peeked through the curtains, saw them together, and smiled. Christmas was in 3 days, and for the first time in 18 months, the Bishop Ranch felt like a home again. Christmas Eve arrived with fresh snow and a sense of peace that felt almost fragile, too perfect, too delicate. The boys were vibrating with excitement. Beck had written a letter to Santa asking for new boots and a telescope. Caleb, still adjusting to his rediscovered voice, had shyly asked for art supplies and more cookies with Vera.
She'd been up late wrapping presents, hiding them in her closet where curious boys couldn't find them. Garrett had snuck up behind her, stolen a kiss that made her forget how to breathe, and whispered, "Merry Christmas, almost mine." Almost mine. The words had made her heart sing and terrify her in equal measure. But now, standing at the kitchen window washing lunch dishes, Vera felt something shift, a cold finger of dread trailing down her spine, the feeling you get when you're being watched. She turned slowly, scanning the fields beyond the house. Nothing. Just white snow and dark trees and empty horizon. "You're being paranoid," she told herself. "Marcus doesn't know where you are. You're safe here." But the feeling wouldn't leave, that crawling sensation on her skin. That afternoon, Garrett took the boys into town for last-minute shopping. New batteries for toys, ingredients for Christmas dinner, something secret Beck insisted on getting for Vera. "Come with us," Garrett said. "I should start the roast. You three go. Have father-son time." She kissed him goodbye, still getting used to the miracle that she was allowed to do that, and watched them drive away. The house felt too quiet. Vera busied herself in the kitchen, pulling out the roast, peeling vegetables, trying to ignore the crawling sensation on her skin. She turned on the radio for company. Christmas carols filled the air. She didn't hear the truck pull up outside. She didn't hear the footsteps on the porch. She didn't know anything was wrong until a voice spoke behind her. "Hello, Vera." Her entire body turned to ice. She knew that voice, had heard it whisper sweet things and terrible things, had heard it apologize and threaten and lie. Slowly, mechanically, she turned around. Marcus stood in her kitchen. He looked exactly as she remembered, handsome in a cold way, dressed in expensive clothes that didn't belong in a ranch kitchen. His smile, the one that had fooled her so long. "Did you really think you could just disappear?" He stepped closer. "I've been searching for you for 3 months. 3 months, you know. How that made me look. My girlfriend vanishing like some kind of criminal." "I'm not your girlfriend." "Yes, you are." He grabbed her wrist, his grip bruising. "You're mine. You've always been mine, and you're coming home." "This is my home." Her voice shook but held firm. Marcus's eyes went to the homey kitchen, the Christmas cookies on the counter, the decorations, the photos of Garrett and the boys on the refrigerator. "You're playing house with some cowboy." His laugh was cruel. "Is that what this is? You think he's going to save you, protect you? Let go of me." "Or what?" He jerked her closer, his breath hot on her face. "You're going to scream. There's nobody here, baby. Just you and me."
He was right. The house was empty. The nearest neighbor was miles away. She was alone with her worst nightmare. "I gave you everything," Marcus hissed. "Everything, and you repaid me by stealing from me and running away like a thief. You owe me." "I owe you nothing." His hand cracked across her face. Vera tasted blood. But something was different this time. This time, instead of shrinking, instead of making herself small and quiet and invisible, she felt something else rising inside her. Rage. Pure, clean, righteous rage. "Get out," she said. Marcus blinked. "What?" "I said get out. This is not your house. I am not your possession, and you have no power here. You stupid." She grabbed the cast iron skillet from the stove and swung it with everything she had. The sound of iron connecting with Marcus's shoulder was deeply satisfying. He stumbled back, shocked. "You hit me? You actually hit me? Get out!" But Marcus's shock was turning to something darker, something that made Vera's blood run cold. She'd seen this look before, right before he'd put her in the hospital the last time. "You're going to regret that," he said softly. He lunged. Vera swung again, but he was ready this time. He caught the skillet, ripped it from her hands, threw it aside. His hands closed around her throat. "I should have done this years ago," he said. "Saved myself so much trouble." Black spots danced in Vera's vision. She clawed at his hands, but he was too strong. This was it. After everything, she'd die in the kitchen of the only home she'd ever felt safe in. No, not like this. With the last of her strength, Vera brought her knee up hard. Marcus doubled over with a howl of pain. His grip loosened just enough.
She ran, not for the door. He'd catch her before she made it outside. Instead, she ran for the stairs, for Garrett's gun safe. She knew the code. He told her in case of emergencies. This was an emergency. Behind her, Marcus thundered after her. "You're dead, you hear me? Dead!" Vera's fingers shook as she punched the code. The safe clicked open. The rifle was heavy in her hands. Garrett had shown her how to use it, just in case. She spun around, just as Marcus reached the top of the stairs, and aimed it directly at his chest. "Stop," she said. Her voice didn't shake. "Take one more step, and I will end you." Marcus froze. For the first time since she'd known him, she saw genuine fear in his eyes. "You won't shoot me. Try me." They stood like that, frozen in a tableau of violence and reckoning. That's when she heard it. The truck pulling up outside, car doors slamming, small voices shouting with excitement. They were home. Vera's heart lurched. No, not now. Not with the boys. "Vera!" Garrett's voice from downstairs. "We're back! Caleb wouldn't stop talking about—" His voice cut off. He heard his boots on the stairs, fast, running. Then he was there, taking in the scene. Marcus on the landing, Vera with the rifle, the overturned furniture, her bleeding face. His expression went from confusion to understanding to something absolutely murderous in the space of a heartbeat. "Boys, stay outside," he said, his voice deadly calm. "Now." "But Dad," Beck started. "Now." Footsteps retreating. Garrett stepped past Vera, positioning himself between her and Marcus. When he spoke, his voice was so cold it could freeze blood. "You must be Marcus. This is between me and my girlfriend. She's not your girlfriend. She's under my protection, which means you just made the worst mistake of your life. You think you can threaten me? I'll have you arrested. She stole from me. She escaped from you. There's a difference." Garrett took a step forward. "Now, here's how this is going to work. You're going to turn around, walk down those stairs, get in whatever vehicle you came in, and leave. If I ever see you on my property again, if I ever hear you've come within 100 miles of her again, I will make you disappear in ways that even God won't find you. Do you understand?" Marcus tried to look tough. Failed. "She's mine. She's nobody's," Garrett roared. The sound was primal, final. "She's a human being, not property, and she just held a rifle on you instead of cowering. That means she's done being yours, forever." Vera watched Marcus's face cycle through emotions, rage, shame, calculation. She'd seen this before, the moment he decided to retreat and regroup. "This isn't over," Marcus said. "Yes," Vera spoke for the first time. "It is, because if you come back, I won't hesitate next time. I'll shoot first and let Garrett bury you in the north pasture." She meant it, and Marcus could see that she meant it. He left, hurrying down the stairs, out the door. They heard his engine start, tires on gravel, the sound of him disappearing from her life. The moment he was gone, Vera's legs fell out. Garrett caught her before she hit the ground, took the rifle from her shaking hands, held her while she fell completely apart. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I brought him here. I put your boys in danger." "Stop. You didn't bring him. He's a predator who couldn't let go. That's on him, not you." Garrett cupped her face, careful of the fresh bruises. "But you stood up to him. You didn't run. You didn't hide. You fought back." "I was so scared." Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being terrified and doing it anyway. Downstairs, they heard the front door creak open. "Dad?" Beck's voice uncertain. "Is Vera okay?" Garrett helped her stand. Together, they walked downstairs. Both boys stood in the hallway, eyes wide. Caleb was crying silently. Beck looked ready to fight. "Is he gone? The bad man?" "He's gone," Garrett confirmed. "Forever?" Vera crouched down, wincing at her bruises. "Forever, I promise." "Did he hurt you?" Caleb's small voice. "A little, but I'm okay.
I'm tougher than I look." "You had the rifle," Beck said. "You were going to protect yourself." "I was." "That's so cool," Beck whispered. Then louder, "You didn't run away. You stayed." The words hit Vera like a thunderbolt. She'd stayed. When Marcus found her, when her worst nightmare came true, she hadn't run. She'd fought. Because this place, these people, they were worth fighting for. "I love you," she said. To the boys, to Garrett, to herself. "I'm not going anywhere. This is my home now." Caleb ran to her, throwing his small arms around her neck. "Don't leave us." "Never," she promised. "Never, ever." That night, after the boys were finally asleep, still checking on Vera every few minutes to make sure she was really okay, Garrett and Vera sat in the dark living room. The Christmas tree lights twinkled. The house was quiet, peaceful. "I called the sheriff, reported the break-in and assault. They're putting out a restraining order. If Marcus comes back, he'll be arrested." "Thank you." "I also called Lorraine, asked her to keep an eye out. Half the county knows by now. If he shows his face anywhere near here," Garrett's jaw clenched. "He won't. Men like that are cowards. When their victims fight back, they move on to easier targets." "I should have fought back years ago." "Maybe you weren't ready then, but you're ready now." He turned to face her. "You were incredible today. Terrifying, but incredible." "I thought he was going to kill me." "But he didn't. You stopped him. You saved yourself." Vera let that truth sink in. She'd saved herself, not waited for rescue, not hoped someone would help. She'd picked up that rifle and drawn her line in the sand. "I love you," she said suddenly. "I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. But I love you, Garrett Bishop. You and your boys. This messy, beautiful life we're building." Garrett's face transformed. "Say it again." "I love you." He kissed her then, deep and sweet and full of promise, a kiss that tasted like coming home. "Marry me," he said when they broke apart. Vera laughed. "We've known each other 6 weeks." "I don't care. I knew the day you got Caleb to eat breakfast. I knew when Beck let you hold him while he cried. I knew every single day you chose to stay when you could have left." His hands framed her face. "Marry me, not because you need shelter, because you want to build a life here, with us." "That's insane." "Probably. People will think we're crazy. Let them." Vera looked around the living room, at the Christmas tree they decorated together, the boys' stockings hanging on the mantel, the pictures on the wall, Garrett and Claire on their wedding day, smiling at a future they didn't know would be cut short. Claire would have loved this, Vera thought, would have wanted someone to love her boys like she did. "Yes," Vera said. "Yes? Yes, I'll marry you, on one condition. Anything. We tell the boys together, make them part of it, because this isn't just us getting married. It's all of us becoming a family, officially." Garrett pulled her close. "Deal." Christmas morning dawned bright and cold. Vera woke to find Garrett already gone from the bed. They'd fallen asleep tangled together on the couch, too exhausted from the previous day's drama to make it upstairs. She could hear voices in the kitchen, laughter, real, genuine laughter. She followed the sound and found all 3 of her men